So the way I look at it is, yes, I'm immediately affecting myself, but I also hurt everybody else. And everybody that decides to work with me, like they're picking me out of any other team in the state of New Jersey to create opportunity. So I really that's why I get mad. And after the 5 minutes are done, I might throw a temper tantrum in my head, and then I'm good. I'm on to the next, right? Like I've lost 12 listings already this year. I've lost 12, and I've been on almost 100 listing appointments already. I was doing follow-up before this, and I called an agent.
Welcome to another edition of the Phone Warriors podcast. We have a fantastic special guest today, Mike Martinetti from Union, New Jersey. Mike, welcome to the show.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to have you, and I'd love to get an idea of exactly what, where you work. Tell the audience and tell the people here of the nation, Phone Warriors Nation, a little bit about yourself and how they can find you.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Union for 29 of my 33 years of life. I've lived there. I went through all the school there, including college. I graduated as a gym teacher, and I got into real estate by accident. I was hungover on a beach in Belmar, outside of DJ's from the night before, and my best friend's wife's cousin found us on the beach and was talking about houses, and I didn't want to hear anything about it. But then they said that they make like $1,500 a month doing this whole thing called being a landlord. So I went home, told my mom I wanted to do what he does, and I bought a house 2 months later. And then I quit teaching right before I got tenured. And then I've been doing real estate for about 7 years now. And I'm basically as involved in real estate as you can. I flip, I have multis. I just closed on some buildings that I'm going to probably learn a lot on as I knock them down and attempt to build a 75 unit. I've never done it. No one's ever helped me, so I don't know what to expect, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I have a small team out in Union County.
That's awesome, man. And
I seen you walking some projects lately. Is that yours or is that somebody else's?
Yeah, that's mine. So that's one of the houses that I'm building. It's actually 2 blocks from where I live, and I'm basically building it from ground up. And I'm just doing it step by step so people can actually learn, because I remember how many mistakes I made when I went to the school of construction. So if I can alleviate people from making mistakes that I made, then it's great. So I'm basically going to do like a step by step of exactly how to build a house, so you can just follow it.
wow, that's incredible, dude. What was I think people, whoever may or may not know who you are, what was your production last year in terms of volume and then also number of units?
Sure. Individually or the team?
Just in general, it doesn't matter, individual or team.
Okay, yeah. So I'll give you our team numbers. So team wise, we did 261 units, and we sold 160 million.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the worst year we had in 3 years, right? So what I'm doing now is I'm basically going backwards in the business to try to fix a lot of the mistakes that I made and was currently making up until really like 3-4 months ago, 6 months ago. That's where we're at now.
I mean, that's incredible for like 2023 for you to do that kind of business and volume. To me is astounding. And I guess I'm curious though, it's only been 7 years.
Yeah.
So to many of the audience and members listening, you could be an overnight success in their eyes. Like, wow, 7 years and you're already doing that kind of production, where you have other mega teams or bigger teams that are doing that production and it takes them 20 years or 15 years or whatever. What do you think is the difference that has worked for you and you do so well than maybe some other people that don't?
I did 2 things right, man. I did 2 things right. The first thing I did right was I focused on being really good at one thing, and I just focused on that. And that was my hometown, right? I knew that I knew a lot of people. I knew I had connections. I knew that people, if they were going to trust me, was going to be there. And I just was able to get a support and a backing really quick. I mean, when I got licensed, there was an agent that sold 52 houses in that hometown. So it's not like it was up for grabs. I basically took it from her. And year 3 in the business, I went to number 1, and I've been number 1 since. And, like our best year was year 5, right? So I feel like people think that you can't be successful immediately in this business. And, my first 6 months, I wasn't successful, but from that point on, I figured it out and I made it work. Like my 5th year in the business, we sold 377 houses and did almost 200 million, right? That was year 5. So if I can do that in 5 years, somebody that's smarter than me could do it way quicker. It's just the thing with real estate is people listen to other people that are successful, right? And they try to do what they're doing. That's not going to work, right? What works is knowing yourself and knowing what you're good at, but more importantly, knowing what you're not good at. So for me, I always am pretty hard on myself. So I just basically got into the business and just focused on the one thing that I knew I could work, and that was my sphere, right? And I basically took as much as I could out of that sphere and jump-started my career. And now, if you're in Eastern Union County, you at least know of my name if you leave your house on a weekly basis because you're forced to look at me, right? And I still have the same business model. I just do it in 5 towns now, right? Like I literally dominate Union. I've been #1 in Roselle Park for 3 years consecutively. I'm #2 in Elizabeth, and I don't speak Spanish. I'm #3 in Clark, and I'm #3 in Scotch Plains. And that's all intentional. It's all intentional. And that's all I'm trying to do is just dominate like 8 towns at most. And that will be my business for the rest of my life.
So what are you specifically doing when you say you walk out the door, they know your face? Is it?
Sure. Yeah. So what I've done now, because capital is not an issue. So I'll kind of walk you through step by step what I did when I had no money to where I'm doing now, so people can hopefully relate. The first thing I did was every success I had, I made like 7 posts out of it, and my posts were awful. Like when I was posting my own things, it looked like my 4-year-old son took the picture, but it would be me when our offer was accepted. I would take that house and I would make a post under contract, and then I would take a picture with the buyers at closing, and I would make a post. And then I would take a picture of the house, and that would be another post. And then I would take a picture at the home inspection and at the appraisal, and I would post it on my story. So I was getting like 5 or 6 posts per house. So the normal consumer thought I was way busier than I was. So I was faking it till I made it, really. And then once I started to get commission checks, then I started to mail, right? So I was mailing a neighborhood over and over again. If you do mailers once a year, it's not going to work, guys. Okay. Can't do that. Got to do it at least 5, 6 times a year to the same people over and over and over again. So then I was doing mailers, one part of town. Now I do the entire town, right? Union's pretty big. Then I bought the billboards in town. So if you're driving around town, you got to look at me at the billboards. Worst ROI there is, but for me, it works because again, I'm so hyper focused on just a small little area that it works for me. And it's not to get business. It's just, you have to look at me. And then I started donating to the schools for the tricky trays. I started donating anytime I can help, like the cops or the firemen in town with anything they're doing. I'm a part of it. And now I have a scholarship in town. So in the last 2 years, I've given $13,200 and $12,400 to 2 individual kids from Union High School. And this year I'm doing $9,400 because for every house I sell, I give $100 towards the scholarship that I do. And the kids are able to, whatever I don't care if it's a business major. As long as they're going to college, then I'm in. So we do that. And anything that I can do pertaining to that town, I'm in. So I'm constantly involved and giving back to the community, because without the community, well, I wouldn't be on your podcast right now. So it's something to me that's important to always give back when I can and help the future of, that town and really the future of our world, to try to be as positive an impact as I can in their lives. And anything that the schools need, if they need me to speak, or I'm helping the teachers right now. One of the teachers that used to teach me, he raised $100,000 between teachers, and I gave them a portion of a house I'm flipping right now. So they're going to make their $100,000 back plus a portion to give back to teachers. So I think that knowing who you are and what's important to you, if you can focus on that, you'll be successful in this, right? To me, kids, education, and animals, that's my passion. That's what I like. So anything pertaining to that, I'll donate or do whatever I can to help better, any way I can, essentially. And that's basically that.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. But like they say that being a teacher is probably the #1 profession prior to getting into real estate that you can be to be really successful at this job. Yeah. It's like teacher, then it's like nurse, and then it's like something else, right? But teacher seems to be it. What qualities of being like from the teaching world and education world did you get that you like without a doubt that you use today that has helped you become successful?
Almost everything. So I was fortunate to have worked in a really, really bad part of Newark as a teacher for 5 years. So the reason why I say I was fortunate is, one, I learned that the way that I grew up was actually really, really good, even though I was just in a normal working class, middle class household. But having what I had compared to what these kids have really makes it eye-opening. And then I also had to deal with their parents. So being able to communicate with people that I was communicating with, there's no one in the world that can qualify to buy a house that could be as uneducated as some of the adults that I had to deal with on a regular basis. But to answer your question, if you're an efficient teacher, there's a lot of things that you need to be good at. You have to be able to articulate yourself to all different types of people, children that learn all different ways. So the way that I communicate with each client is different, but I'm still myself, right? So that's one. You have to be really organized, right? You have to be able to understand what you're going to do throughout your day, and every minute of each lesson matters, because otherwise you're not going to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. So I'm extremely organized. The other thing that I think is really important, teaching, I guess, does it, is like, I know my numbers inside and out. You guys can grill me on anything you want to know. I know my numbers like this. Most business owners can't spit out their number. I can tell you anything you want to know. And then the last thing that I think teaching really helped me do is it makes you understand that there's all different ways that people are going to connect, and you have to just figure out how to connect with that person. And the reality is when someone hires a real estate agent, yes, we can boast about our numbers. That's fantastic. But they don't connect with you or trust you, they're not hiring it. I lose listing appointments in Union every year. It makes me infuriated, but it's because I didn't do a good enough job making them trust me, right? There's no reason anyone in Union shouldn't hire me. I sell 80, 90, 100 houses more than the second best agent, but it's because I didn't do a good enough job connecting with them. So that's something that I'm still continuing to work on, is be better at being able to make actual relationship connections with anything and any opportunity to have with a client, and those are the skill sets that I think most teachers bring, amongst various other things, right? We're patient. You're dealing with obstacles every day because you don't know what the kids are dealing with at home. So they come in and they're having a crappy day. You got to be able to sense that and then take the kid away and understand what happened and see what, so those little things that you do as a teacher, you're doing with adults, right? Like they wake up one day and they're freaked out because their mortgage payment's $5,000 and they're coming from a $2,000 rental, and you got to talk them off a ledge.
Yeah.
Right. So, and things like that are what makes agents good, and what really, I think, helped me propel my career so fast. I give it a lot of it to teaching, really. Teaching and my parents. My mom rode my ass, right? I wasn't a good student, but she always told me, you're going to do your hard work when you're young, Michael. When you're older, you're going to thank me. You're going to do your hard work when you're young, Michael. When you're older, you're going to thank me. And I hated hearing it. But now I'm 33 years old, and I look at what I have and where I am in life versus where I was 7 years ago. And I'm able to thank my mother for everything she's instilled in me, because now I'm living a life that I never thought I'd live.
Wow.
So I do have a question. So the fact that you lose listing appointments, building rapport, like what are you specifically doing? Are you doing this before you get there, asking them certain questions? Are you at the appointment trying to build a rapport, like seeing what's on their walls, if they're a Giant fan, Jet fan, or what are you doing to identify what personality style each person is, and then how do you adapt to them? Like what do you
Sure. So I wing everything in my life. I don't do any research on anything, because then I feel like I'm not as organic as I want to be. So anytime I lose a listing, I always ask why. No one ever answers me, very rarely. And typically if I lose it, it's usually because of either commission or I botched the price, or sometimes it's when they don't answer, I know I didn't do a good enough job building a relationship with them. So what I try to do is I look at when I'm in the house, I'm very observant. I'm looking at, like you said, if they have a Giants or Jets, because then I'll talk football, right? Because that's something that I have a passion for. But if they have cats, I don't bring up cats because I don't have a cat, and I can't be organic and connect with them because I would be fake. And if it wouldn't be me. So I try to connect on things that I actually have passion for. And sometimes there's homes that I'm in, and as soon as I see the people and we start talking, I already know that it's probably, if they do hire me, we're gonna do this transaction. They're never gonna refer me or talk to me again, because we just don't have the same similarities or anything. But I try to connect on things that are important to me, right? And the reality is that it doesn't matter how good of a real estate agent you are. Unfortunately, you're not going to get every listing, because we're humans, and some people just have really, really crazy. I'll give you a perfect example of a listing I just lost. I suggested listing the house at 975. They listed with an agent at 849. So I said, thank you so much for the opportunity. I wish you nothing but the best of luck. But can you just explain to me why you ended up listing $125,000 less? Did you think that my valuation was completely off? And she actually responded. And you know what her response was? Her response was, I'm the executor of the estate. There's 4 people in the estate, and uh, they didn't want to pay you an extra 1%. So I responded and I said, wait. I gave you a scaling commission. I said, if I sell over ask, it's 6. If it's within $10,000 of ask, it's 5. And if it's below, it's 4. So I responded and she said, I didn't have it in writing. Your presentation was the best of all the agents I interviewed. You lost the listing for the wrong reasons. So I'm like, okay, like, so what did I learn from that? Right. Because no matter whether I agree with what they say or not, I always try to learn something. So I learned that I should have sent them a listing agreement that I'd never sent them, and they would have had it on paper, and maybe they would have hired me. Now, what's mind blowing is for 1%, that's $9,750. They listed it $125,000 less.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm like,
So, and I think that we have a lot of new agents listening to this and that are going to be listening to this. And I think we just had a sales meeting this past week talking about the losses and how we handled that. So what did you say in the moment? So that happened to you, right? Or
this just happened this week.
Right. Anyone who's a top producer, you're losing more business than we think people think that we do. Right. So,
Yeah.
So how quickly do you bounce back and just go about your day? And like, what are you telling yourself when you know it kind of stings a little bit to be like, ooh, I'm going to give myself either time, or like, what are you saying to yourself in those moments when you do lose?
I get really mad for 5 minutes. Like, I'm pissed, right? Not because I need the money. It's because I'm competitive. Like, I'm so competitive. So I'm pissed because this is what happens. This is how I think, right? All right, I lost out. So that means that obviously I'm not making money on that sale, but the bonuses that the people on staff are now, that's an opportunity that I took away from them. It's an opportunity for my agent who would have sat that open house. It's an opportunity for the lenders and the attorneys and the home inspector that may have all gotten business had I landed the listing. So the way I look at it is, yes, I'm immediately affecting myself, but I also hurt everybody else. And everybody that decides to work with me, like, they're picking me out of any other team in the state of New Jersey to create opportunity. So I really, like, that's why I get mad. And after the 5 minutes are done, I might throw a temper tantrum in my head, and then I'm good. I'm on to the next, right? Like, I've lost 12 listings already this year. I've lost 12. And I've been on almost 100 listing appointments already. So, I was doing follow-up before this, and I called an agent. I mean, I'm sorry, I called the seller. I followed up with the seller 4 times. So she always answers the phone, and she says, "Oh, we're not going with you because we're using a more seasoned and better agent." I said, "Okay." No ego. I said, "Okay, no problem. I completely understand. I wish you the best of luck." Like, what else are you gonna say? Like, I could have, I guess, fought and asked who they're hiring and things like that. But to me, if I have to convince you to see value with using me over somebody else, then it's probably not someone I want to do business with either. Right. So obviously I'm going to track to see who they list with, because I can't wait to see who it is.
Yeah. It'd be someone who's 3 times your age and done 5 transactions.
Correct. That's exactly who it's going to be. Right. Because I could have taken my ego and said, go find one agent in New Jersey that sold more houses than me in a year, and I'll wait. But that's not me. I'm not going to do that. Ultimately, I just try to learn from it. And what I learned from that is there's nothing I could have done differently. I'm not old, and I don't have 20 years of real estate in the business. So there's nothing I could do. So I'm okay losing that, because there's nothing I could have done differently. What sucks is when they tell me something that I could have done differently, and I would have gotten a listing like that house I just explained for the 975 that got listed at 849, right? Which is completely underpriced, and that agent is going to look like a hero and get all the praise, but they botched it. Should have been listed at 975, like I said, but whatever.
2 years ago, Mike, we met, maybe more than that now, 3 years ago, I think it was. And we were on a panel together. And I remember you saying, something like, well, all I do is just pick up the phone all day. Yep. And it seemed like there wasn't like a structure there, or there wasn't something there that like you could like attach, like agents can attach to be like, oh, that's why he's successful, or that's why he does this, right? We're always looking for like the reasons why someone is who they are.
Right.
But recently, and I didn't even know this until we had our Phone Warrior event, that something changed big time in your career. Yeah. Can you explain that and why that actually transpired?
Yeah, of course. So I hired a coach, and it was because I went to an event finally that the company I work for throws twice a year, and it's everyone throughout the world that works for that company came, and I was sitting there, and I'm listening to everyone that's on stage, right? And my numbers were better than more than half the people that were on stage. So I'm immediately I'm pissed because I'm like, well, why am I not on this stage? Because my numbers are better. So, but then I'm like, okay, like there's a reason why I'm not on there. So I'm listening to what everyone's saying, and first person gets up and they shout out to their coach, and I'm like, loser. Then the second person gets out, shout out to my coach. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then every single person on stage is talking about a coach. So then finally a light bulb went off in my head and said, I need to go hire a coach. I ran out the freaking thing and I went, and the first person I saw, I asked if they would want to coach me. And I was just trying to sell myself as to why they should coach me. And then she's like, yeah, I'll coach you. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm being impulsive. Stop. So I interviewed two other coaches and I hired coaching. And what they made me realize is the reason why I just picked this thing up and this is how I generate business is because I did a really good job since day one at just focusing on my sphere and focusing on dominating an area to where now my phone does just ring and I do just answer it because people just know who I am from my little pocket of New Jersey that I focus my business on, right? And now I'm trying to make people understand that I actually sell 80% of the state because I've had numerous people say, I just bought a shore house, but we know you don't go down there. And I was like, what do you mean I don't go down there? I absolutely go down there. I actually have a house down the shore. I'm in the summer, I'm down the shore more than I am up north. Right. So now I'm trying to make people aware that, hey, I'm not just a Union County guy. I do sell everywhere else. I just dominate Union County. So they made me realize that everything that I've done since day one in my career has allowed me to be able to just pick up my phone. Right. And that's, again, going back to what we were talking about before, instilling all those things that I'm doing in my business. And now I'm doing that in 5 towns. So I'm busy. Right. I'm able to mail postcards. I mail about 20,000 postcards every other month. Right. So I'm getting actually probably 40,000 now. We're spending $25,000 every other month on postcards. So I'm able to do these things to generate business. And then yeah, I answer my phone. That's pretty much what I do. But it's because I was really good at setting up my business from day one, and I never realized that. Now I understand why. Because they are bringing me back and taking my business back so I can redo all the things I've done wrong. And that's why our numbers were what they were last year, which I know they sound good, but they're not good considering 2 years before that, I was at 377 units with only 2 extra team members on. So we're in the process of setting standards for our agents. If they can't hit the threshold, then unfortunately our relationship is just no longer going to go. And then once I have everything set up in place and we're doing things properly, then I'll scale. But it would be unfair for me to try to scale right now to the agents that have been with me while I've ran this team for 5 years wrong, and I've only been running it right for 6 months. It would be very selfish for me to do that. So
Very humbling experience for sure.
Oh,
And one of my last questions I would like to ask, man, is like, if you could take a time machine back of yourself, back to 22, 23-year-old Mike
oh.
Martinetti, back in the day, knowing what you know now, not even just about business, but about life,
Yeah.
knowing what you're experiencing, because you went from a financial, I'm getting paid X as a teacher,
Right.
to then making obviously the multiple 7 figures a year. That's a huge difference.
Mhm.
And for you to control your mindset and still be this humble, but what is the 1 to 2 things you're telling yourself back then?
Yeah, I mean, when I was 22, 23, that like everything I'm doing wasn't even a thought. It wasn't. It wasn't even like an idea. Like I literally got into this from being on the beach that one day. And I don't even think the kid knows that he changed my life. I should probably call him and thank him. And he'd have no idea what he's doing. But because of that conversation, that is how this has all become a thing. Like I got out of teaching to make $100,000 a year and to buy 1-2 family. That was my goal. That's genuinely all I wanted to accomplish. Because for me, that would have been wealthy. Like I consider that wealthy. So to go back to being 22 and 23-year-old me, what are 1 or 2 things that I would tell myself is what you asked me
Yes.
of where I am right now, or like
all your experiences up to this point in your life, what would you either tell yourself at that point to say, like, what is it? Keep on going. You're going to be just fine. Like, what if you never had that moment on the beach is my question, right? What do you,
yeah,
that's the point.
yeah. So, what I really would say to myself is I understand what my mom always meant by if you do your hard work young and you take your risk young, it will pay off in the end. Because I had to go to work for one day and I had job security for the rest of my life. I don't think people really get that. Like I taught for 5 years. After your 5 years are done, once you show up to day one of year 6, you have tenure. And I quit. And my mom wanted to kill me. But I would tell people that when you're young, you have a really rare opportunity. Okay. And that opportunity is you could take risks and you could strike out or you could hit a home run because you don't have real responsibilities. If you're smart, you're living home and you're not paying rent if you have the ability to, right? I lived home till I was 29, by the way. I owned 6 homes and lived home in my parents' basement, stacking money away. But what I would say is if when you're young, for all the risks that you want to take, that's the time to do it. Because if you mess up, you have a lot of time that you can change and fix your life, right? And if I didn't take that risk of quitting teaching and getting into real estate, we wouldn't be doing this. And my whole life would be so different than what it is right now. So for anyone that's young, if you're thinking about doing something and you're worried about the risk, look at the person that you most are influenced by, okay? And try to figure out what risk they took because no one is successful without taking a minimum of one really, really, really big risk. And that's what humans are scared of. We're scared of risk. We're scared of change. We hate it. We don't like it. We're programmed not to want to do that. So that is probably the one thing I would say is that I'm glad that at that age, I took the risks that I did. And I'm still taking risks now to this day, just on a much bigger scale. And I hope I answered your question somewhat accurately. They're asking.
And I would say before we go, at the complete opposite spectrum, what is your legacy? Like when you're no longer here on your tombstone, what do you want to be recognized as to your children, to your family, your grandchildren, anybody? Like what's your legacy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have I know the answer very well. So for me, like I'm doing everything that I'm doing, it's not for money anymore. That's gone. That's done. Like my life is I don't need to do that because I'm making more money than I ever thought I could. So my life, I don't live the lifestyle of someone where I need to make $50,000 a month to survive. Like not living like that. So for me, everything that I'm doing is for my kids. And I want them to be able to understand where I came from, where I was when I do croak, and understand all the things that I had to do to that. And my goal is to hopefully raise them to be just better versions of me and have them be able to impact more people than I am in a positive way when they're of age and able to do things like that. For me, I try to impact as many people as I can in as positive of a way as I can. And the more that I can do good, the more that other people can do good. And I think that that's where I focus on. It's important to me to try to take as many opportunities that I have and instill it in the people that choose me when they decide to work with me, and that I decide to work with them. So, that's what I want to be known as. I want to be known as somebody that maximized their opportunities, did as much as they possibly could, has impacted as many people in a positive way as I can. And hopefully my children will do it on a better scale than me, start at a younger age than me, and turn out to be better humans than me. That's ultimately, my goal of how I hope I'm left when I do leave. And hopefully it's
powerful, dude. That's super powerful. What's the best way people can find you or reach out to you for referrals or any questions?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you can call or text me on my cell, 908-590-0236. That is my actual number. You will actually get a response from me. You can email me at michael@michaelmartinettigroup.com, or you can just go on Facebook. I think my name is Michael Martinetti on Facebook, and on Instagram, I think it's Michael Martinetti Sales NJ or something like that. And then we have a group page, which I think it's Michael Martinetti Group. I have no idea. But yeah, that's how you can contact me. So if you have any questions, referrals are great. We love those.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, dude. This was, I think, super enlightening, and for the audience members and everyone. So I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
all right,
bro.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice seeing you guys. All right, be good.
All right, take care.
Take care.